Hi, a warm welcome to all our panelists and delegates who have joined us for the third Packaging Live webinar. Our theme for today is Digital Packaging Creating Brand New Opportunities. My name is Prateek Kaushik, Portfolio Director at Reed Exhibitions India, organizers for today's webinar, and PackPlus Exhibitions, India's leading exhibition serving the food, confectionery, and FMCG sector for the past 15 years. We expect an engaging discussion with the pool of experts that we have today. I already see over 450 delegates joined us for this program. And while these delegates join, I'll just set some housekeeping rules. I'll be requesting all to keep their videos on and the mics on mute. All delegates that have joined and are joining are requested to share any questions that they may have in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. The panel will try to answer these during their discussion or during the Q&A session that we have at the end of the session. We'll also be conducting 3 polls during the course of our discussions today. And I'll request all the speakers as well as the delegates to take these polls as they come. So without further intervening, I will request Jayesh Pandey, Partner Managing Consultant at PwC India, our moderator of the day, to introduce this panel and set the discussion rolling. Let's get started with the power-packed Wednesday debate. Over to you, Jayesh.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Prateek. It's a real pleasure, and I must, congratulate you and the organizing team on this super panel that we have kind of put together. For everyone, this is a very power-packed panel. We have some brilliant people coming from their brands, and people who are converters, people who are technical providers, but most importantly, each one of these individuals has spent a lot of time actually collating and curating insights for you. I'm very happy to actually present this panel from my perspective. Let me just kind of, in no particular order, give you a quick rundown of the panel. We have Harveer Saniji, who is the chairman of Weldon Celluplast. If you haven't seen his blog, which I got introduced to as a part of this journey, it's just you're missing something. Please go and see his blogs. We have Meenakshi. She heads up sales in Huhtamaki, and you are going to be very happy when she kind of describes the overall value creation process for you. We have Yogesh Bambal. He is a senior group leader, packaging chocolate for the entire AMEA region. And Yogesh brings to us today a full-fledged international experience, and we will get global insights from Yogesh today. We have Achintya. He's the national head for packaging development and engineering in the Coca-Cola company, HCCP as we call it. Achintya has a very different perspective on packaging, and not only talking of consumer connect and not only talking of other stuff, he's also going to bring a supply chain perspective to us, right? We then have Nitin. Nitin is the associate vice president in packaging development, Godrej Consumer Products, and he is actually going to walk us through of what he sees as a certain set of constraints that will actually prevent digital packaging from becoming the norm, and that's very interesting for us to kind of know. Post that, we will have Himanshu. Himanshu is the supply chain director for J&J Pharma business, and he has a tremendous set of interesting insights on what we could do with packaging. We will have Sridhar J, who is the head packaging for domestic and international foods in Marico. And he brings the entire innovation, the entire angle of design thinking and sustainability to this entire conversation. And I'm sure that you will take away a lot of ideas from these 5. Finally, we will end up with with Appadurai. And from my perspective, as I saw the level of preparation and the degree of insights that he's bringing to the table, I'm really I can assure you that you are going to get a fantastic set of ideas as he packages it. So without further piece, I am going to request Harveerji to kickstart us, and my request to Harveerji right at the start is, Harveerji, in your view, and you've been tracking this industry for a very long time, and what's been the history, and how have you experienced really the digital packaging? If I can request you to share both the history that you have seen as well as your personal experience, it would be great.
Thank you, Jayesh. Shantanu, can I have the slide, please? Okay, in the last 50 years that I've spent in this industry, initially as a print buyer, and then most of the latter part as a supplier to the label industry, I've seen the print evolve right from the block letterpress printing to offset to rotogravure to flexographic, and now we finally reached digital printing. And in recent time, digital printing also has evolved and gone into different tangents, which include dry toner based printing, liquid toner based printing, water based inkjet, UV inkjet, and others means in the last decade we've seen a lot of development coming in nanotechnology from Landau, but it still has to make a big impact worldwide. Coming to the technologies, dry toner. Initiation of digital printing can historically be attributed to xerography, invented by the owners of Xerox in 1970s, which transformed to digital printing with laser printers, also called electrostatic digital printing or electrophotography. In this process, a laser beam runs over an electrically charged drum, preparing an electrical image carrying charged areas. The drum is a cylinder coated with a material that becomes conductive when exposed to light and laser beam. Areas that are not exposed have a high resistance, which allows these areas to hold the electrostatic charge necessary for process. The image then collects the toner and transfers the image to a paper or substrate that it is then heated to fuse the image onto it. This technology has further evolved in time and is now being used by companies like Zycon and Konica Minolta. Coming to liquid toner, in 1977, Israeli company Indigo was started by Benny Landa, who is also known as the father of digital printing because he is the one who actually led the foray into color digital printing. Benny Landa wanted to develop the world's fastest photocopier. Working on developing liquid toner-based digital printing technology, in 1993, he made a historical launch of Indigo liquid toner color printing press. The technology ushered in an era of transformation. By year 2000, it had caught on so much of interest that HP had invested substantially into Indigo's equity, almost 16%. And a year later, in 2001, they acquired Indigo completely, 100%, and renamed it HP Indigo. The rest is history, as they grew the process to be the leading technology worldwide. In India, it has over 60% market share. Water-based inkjet has been around for ages. The earliest patent was in 1950s by Siemens, but most of the development like drop-on demand happened in 1970s or 1980s. Due to drying and nozzle clogging issues, the technology remained a little slow in adaptation. But in recent times, due to safety concerns and further developments, water-based inkjet has started evolving and is being preferred for many applications, mostly related to food and pharma. However, the need to use pre-coated media is a small deterrent, but as volumes tend to grow, the media cost has started becoming affordable. Companies like Screen, Trojan, Colordyne, etc. use this technology. UV inkjet, with the developments of commercial availability of UV curable inks in 1999, commercial printing equipment also surfaced. Here, since the ink contains photoinitiators, it does not need air drying. It is cured and cross-linked by exposure to UV. So it is possible to print on uncoated substrates, including films at high speeds. Users of this technology includes Domino, Durst, Canon, Screen, and Zycon. Having said this, digital printing has exposed a lot of opportunities for brand owners and for consumers as well. There are umpteen number of cases where you will see the personalization happening. For me, it was a very satisfying experience last Diwali to receive a box of chocolates from a friend of mine from Mondelez through their e-commerce platform, and it so happened that I was so satisfied that I ordered another box for a friend of mine. I think you can see the image here, and even the person there, probably many of you will recognize him. Even he found it such a satisfying that he shared the thing with his colleagues also. So that's how personalization can happen. And Coke was one. Apadura will tell you more about it, because Coke was one who initiated the personalization of packages. Thank you. I think I'm done, Jayesh.
So wonderful insights, Saniji. We could see the history of how digital has evolved. And I would like to bring in Meenakshi at this stage to kind of share her insights as a converter and share her case studies with the audience today.
Thank you, Pratik. Morning to all, and thank you, Harvit, for setting the ground right for me. So, to begin with, I would like to just first of all uh, put things in the right perspective. While you spoke about digital, so first clarification, or the first point which I would like to speak about is that most of the people, consumers, brands keep on asking that, is digital going to replace gravure? No. It's a complementing technology to what exists already. So that it is traditional technology will always exist. Coming back to this topic, what we have to discuss today, from the overall packaging perspective, I am quite optimistic about packaging industry being a key player as consumers and other sectors adapt to COVID outbreak. Now, if you ask me from the value proposition of digital printing, the key takeaways for each stakeholder in the ecosystem are manifold. However, I would like to emphasize on critical points that is more apt post-COVID. Now, what I'm going to do is that before I talk about what's going to really happen post-COVID and how digital printing is going to really help brands, consumers, supply chain, all stakeholders in business, I'm just going to touch base a little bit on what we have been doing as Huhtamaki on digital printing. So our journey on digital printing since last 2 years has been quite interesting. We have learned quite a lot with brands, with markets. So to be very frank with you, what we have done on this digital printing is that we have touched almost 100 new brands. Why they needed digital printing was more because most of these brands either needed quick and short launches. So there was really constraint on the time factor. They wanted the product to be out in 2 weeks' time. Frankly speaking, making it possible on gravure or any other traditional press is just not possible, because you have to make cylinders, you have to make a lot of processes in between. That's why it was simply impossible to do it on gravure. Our experience while working with a lot of these upcoming brands, or so to say with most of the prominent brands which are there on the panel today, there has been an experience of having multiple artworks if I have to give you a number of artworks we have dealt while introducing a brand into the market, it was to a tune of 50 artworks per SKU. So they had different variants which they wanted to launch, not sure of which variant will work well for them. So dealing with 50 artworks meant 50 cylinders. So that's the incredible work that we have done for some of the brands. I'm sure while Jayesh was giving introduction at the start, there are a lot of participants whom we have worked with, and they would endorse my point that dealing with such artworks was a real task. The third point, which really was interesting for us to really work with brands, was absolute short quantities. So we had so many brands who never wanted large quantities. So if I have to talk about numbers, so every variant, the requirement was only 2,000 to 5,000 pouches. So they never wanted to keep an inventory of lot of pouches, because you never know what's going to happen eventually in the market. The fourth point, which was really coming up well while we were talking to and working with a lot of brands, was test marketing. Trust me, most of the brands, I'm sure Yogesh would endorse my point that test marketing has been a key thing for even Mondelez, so to say. So we have done a couple of projects for Mondelez where they just wanted a few kgs of laminates very quickly. That's been delivered by digital printing to them. And most importantly is one-to-one connect with customers. You have an example of Coke, which we have done some 130 million labels, all customized to consumers, which was a classic example of how do you connect one-to-one to customers. Now, just to give an example of one of the case studies that we have done for India, Shantanu, can I request you to put Artagal case study? I'm talking, yes. This brand, I would like to speak about this brand, how digital really helped this brand. This was a new brand, an entrepreneur by the name Sangeeta. Her name is Sangeeta. She had come to us to make these pouches for atta batter. She had approximately 24 variants which she wanted to introduce in market. So actually, to be very frank with you, she had come to our colleagues to meet up for the gravure printing. And the timelines being given by our colleagues in gravure was some 3 months to 4 months by the time they could make cylinders and plan for it. And she was really headbent on time because she really did not want to miss out the time and miss out the business opportunity to really get into the market. So guys, this product, this pouch rather, this is a 5-panel pouch, very interesting pouch. If you see the quality of this pouch, you would not really believe it's digital printing. So this 24 variants, approximately 1 lakh pouches was delivered to Sangeeta in just 2 weeks time. So that's the time to market, and that's what we have been doing pre-COVID. Now, I'm sure after talking to you about these value adds which digital brings to market, nothing much has changed post-COVID, except that current crisis has accelerated the value proposition for all stakeholders in the value chain. What we as packaging converters are witnessing is as follows. From the brand perspective, if I have to put things in right perspective, what would happen? What would be brand's priority post-COVID, and what we are experiencing right now at our factory is high degree of consumer connect. If you ask any brand who is talking to us right now, if you ask me, we have a lot of brands who are talking to us about supplies, about innovations, creativity. And the topmost priority for each of these brands is focus on consumer instincts. Customize assortments to retain brand share with a lot of emphasis on innovation and creativity. Moreover, as we all know that engagement with consumers, since retail is not going to be operational for some time, the package has to work as a marketing tool for brands. That's what has been the real challenge for all these brands to get out as a package in the market. consumer might consider instant gratification since socialization would be at bay for some time. So what I mean by this, I mean that since consumers would not get to feel the product on the retail or get to see the product, so they would really venture out. They would like to have one-to-one gratification of probably greeting with personalized notes, personalized packs to their consumer, to their friends, to their colleagues. So this is going to be the major business turnaround point for digital printing. And the fourth trend, which we see from the brand's perspective, is the increasing need of e-commerce. The recent study, what we have seen is from Brick Meets Click reported, 31% of the US hold used online grocery to deliver versus 13% a year ago. So that's a clear trend that e-commerce is bound to grow in this post-COVID. So what this would really mean is that people would really want to have print on demand. So they don't want to have any inventory in their warehouses, in their workshops. From the consumer perspective, if you ask me, what is going to drive digital printing or packaging as an innovation tool?
Meenakshi, you really need to
accelerate.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as a packaging converter, what we see as a driving point for digital is efficiency and effectiveness in operations. What it really means is that we're talking about less wastage, no setup cost, adhere to social distancing norms. We just need one operator to drive the press and really print on demand, because as we spoke up, e-commerce is going to take a major role on the business. From the overall business environment perspective, innovation in business models is going to drive the digital business. Major focus on cash flows, no inventory, minimum quantities, and no lean supply chain management is really going to drive this whole proposition of digital printing. And to summarize my points and my presentation, is that we see a major thrust on supply chain efficiency. Digital is definitely an answer to that. No inventory carrying cost. Digital is really going to support brands, business, converters, everybody. Multiple and instant launches for brands to get out into the market and retain their market share. And this is what I have to say for today's presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I think what I will request, before I call up the next panelist, I would request, Prateek and team to actually run the poll. Can you please run the poll? Okay, while we are waiting for the results to, kind of come in, I'm going to request our first, panelists from the brands to actually come and share, their perspective. Yogesh, if I can request you to share your perspective, and again, a request, please, shorten the time. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jayesh, for setting up the context, and my previous co-panelists, Meenakshi and Haviji. So as you guys have heard that how digital packaging is setting up and changing the needs of the consumers and the customers. So I would like to highlight what it means for the brands, a few key points, especially for brands like us. So how digital packaging is helpful, especially in driving the engagement. And when I say engagement, of course, using packaging as a medium to engage the consumers, right? So there are multiple platforms which have been talked about, like personalization, customization, limited edition packaging, right? And festive packaging. And this means a lot for when you need to activate the brand and in no time. right? And that's where I think digital packaging is playing a vital role. And I will cite some of the examples going forward in my slides. So I'm going to request that soon. But before I reach to that point, another important factor I would like to emphasize when I talk about digital. So digital means, of course, speed is very, very critical. So agility comes into a picture. So fast time to the market is another key enabler for the brand people in order to deliver the consumer engagement and the activation programs what brands has. And then of course another element which is customization, which is every pack is different. You can personalize it and engage, create your story on the packaging. So agility, customization, and of course last but not the least is cost. Of course, when you want to run a small batches or the small quantities, of course if you go to a traditional technologies, it is MOQs are very, very limited. So that's where I think the extra edge of digital packaging comes into a picture. And of course with this small batches you can have more versions and more variety in the way in which you want. And Minakshi has already cited few examples already. So that is how I think the cost, agility, and the customization, these are the three key points I would say are key enabler for the brands. And of course, as you know, as a technology, this technology doesn't need plates, no press setup, and every print is unique. So that's about uniqueness about the digital packaging, and that's how we need to understand the importance of this technology, and what magic which we can create, and then use it for our brands to activate and create the value for the consumers. So Shantanu, if you can share few slides which I'm going to talk. So these are few examples which I wanted to talk about, which is already been launched and done through the digital packaging. So if you can see the first slide, the Oreo color filled package, which we have created and customized, and created that wow experience. This color filled campaign was a big hit way back in 2016 in China, and we could do this only and only through the digital campaign and the digital printing technology. The next example which I wanted to talk about, and I think Harveer ji has already shared this example, but I just wanted to talk on an e-commerce platform. What are we doing as a brand, and how are we personalizing the packages, right? So if you can see the celebration gift box, which is on the shelf or on the slide, you can see a personalized "I love you" message, and you can print the picture of the person whom you want to give a gift to. So we have a e-commerce gifting platform wherein you can really personalize your messages and create a gift for your person whom you want to gift. So these are the things which is really very important, and unlocking the value and creating that emotional connect within the consumers through the digital packaging as a technology. The next one is like Oreo Music Box. This sounds very exciting and interesting, isn't it? So if you see that this is also another campaign which we have done with the help of digital printing and packaging. So you have literally a music box, and with the Oreo cookies you can play on that music box. So this is a campaign which we have done again digitally, and of course there are multiple elements of the digital packaging. You can scan the code, and then you can share the songs to your friends and the colleagues and the relatives, whoever you want to. So this is also another campaign which was a big hit in China. Again, next example which is done in Europe, which is say it with Milka. Again, whenever you want to gift anything, you can personalize that gift and create those messaging. And similarly, the Milka also is another example. This is a package wherein we have inserted a greeting card and a kind of a messages, which is personalized again. So these are the examples which we have done and leveraged to activate our brands and create that consumer connect. And this digital packaging is the best medium, I would say, to unlock these opportunities. The next slide, please, Shantanu. So couple of examples against on the same platform, which is Tang we have done in 2017, Trident we have done in 2017 again, and the Stride. So globally also we have leveraged digital packaging to activate our brands, create that consumer engagement, connect, and delight the experience of the consumer. So as you can see over some examples which I have cited and talked through, can create a really wonderful activations for brands like us. And of course, this is all possible, and we have done all this in collaboration with our supplier partners. And one of the supplier partner is Utamaki, of course. Meenakshi is on the panel, and of course, HP as well, and Appa is on the panel as well. So of course, these are the things which we could unlock the opportunities of packaging into a real life and create that connect with the consumer, and which is really helping us and giving a growth trajectory and some fantabulous results out of this campaigns. And recently we have done a thank you bar as well, but that is also a digital campaign which we have done in this pandemic time as well. So digital packaging is really helping to unlock some of the opportunities and the growth for the businesses like us. So that's my perspective on the digital packaging, and thanks a lot.
Thanks, Yogesh. Thank you very much. My personal favorite, of course, is Milka, but the Oreo Music Box is also a very well-known piece.
Yeah.
I can see that the audience is actually putting down questions. They have put down questions for Meenakshi, and I will request Meenakshi to answer these questions in the Q&A part. Thank you very much. Please keep the questions coming. Very important for us to know what more you would like to know. I think one of the key questions, Meenakshi, that you would like to look at is what's the cost difference between digital and gravure. And people are generally asking MOQ, cost difference, balancing curve. So I think if you can just respond to that later when we request. But also there is a very interesting question around duplicates, and I think Mr. Appadura is actually going to addressed one of the points around that. So, I'll leave it in his main section to address that. But thank you very much, Yogesh. I'm going to request Achintya to come and share his very different perspective and from a very different lens, I would say, on this topic. So, Achintya, over to you, and please keep it short.
Certainly, Jayesh. Thanks for the introduction. And thanks to my co-panelists Meenakshi for elucidating on the Share a Coke campaign that we ran about in India, but then Share a Coke and Diet Coke have been things of the past. Today's consumer is looking at a certain connect with the product. He's been having the product, but he now wants to know a little bit more about the product. We've all seen those Paytm promos back of the label scratch things and those barcode on those numbers there to put in, and for that instant gratification. But this customer today, or the consumer today, is looking at wanting to understand the product a bit more. That's wherein digital comes in handy, wherein you can put in sort of a 2D barcode or a barcode in there, which the consumer can scan, go to a landing page, understand a bit more of the product in more depth. Yes, the content is there on the pack, but then more depth, more graphics, that brings about a personal connect with regards to the product. So that's one of the perspectives of connecting with the brand. And we ran a campaign around this in the eastern part of the country, wherein on the Mazda Tetra Packs, we put in some of these barcodes through which that connect was established. The next piece that I would like to take up is now from a pure supply chain point of view, wherein be it pharma, be it beverage, or be it for that matter, any of the FMCG companies, obsolescence does happen to be one of the critical things. Now, regulations change, and at that point in time, you're sitting with a ton of inventory of labels, foils, laminates, whatever at that point in time. So what do you do about that? There is nothing that can be done at that point in time other than either seek an extension or write off. That's where in digital comes in. So Meenakshi, somebody had posed a question to Meenakshi on what is the bare minimum order quantity. Theoretically, the minimum order quantity for digital is 1. That's what is the power of digital, wherein you can print up 5 packets or 10 packets and don't need to invest in cylinders, time, and all of that. So obsolescence is taken care of. Another piece that I'd like to work upon is with regards to late stage customization. Think of a situation wherein you are manufacturing a product which is going to go, say for example, into the markets of Europe or markets of India, wherein you want to connect with the customer or you want to customize the product for that specific market. So imagine you have a carton artwork or which has a basic generic text which will be sent out to somewhere in Europe. A QP release will happen. Before that QP release, you customize it. So Hungary wants 5,000 packs, Germany wants 2,000 packs, Russia wants 3,000 packs. You can customize it. Now imagine if you wanted to do the same thing back in India at the manufacturing stage, you would have had to print that minimum order quantity, the minimum run size, minimum batch size for each of those manufacturing products. So that's another perspective of late stage customization wherein digital does come in extremely handy. The last thing that I would like to bring up is with regards to another customer connect related thing wherein one is able to print out a common inventory, customize it for, so for example, if we have a Coke label, so Share a Coke was a brilliant example wherein we could customize it with names. Now, sort of, can we look at a festival connect? That festival connect and that inventory reduction, if I started doing this on specific films, specific labels, so I would have had to carry on 5 separate sets of inventory or maybe more. But then digital enables you to online or maybe slightly offline print up that, have only the necessary amount of material for your production. So thereby bringing down inventory carrying costs. So my perspective and my take on digital is reduction in inventory carrying cost, speed to market, ability to customize, reduction in obsolescence. So that's all my take is on digital printing. Over to you, Jayesh.
Jayesh, you need to unmute.
Thanks. That was really, really sharp and extremely valuable. Thank you very much, Achintya. I think you answered almost 7-8 questions around MOQ, lot size, etc., including for the personalized piece. I think there are a lot of questions on, the Q&A. Audience, please keep the questions going. I'm going to request Nitin to come in and share his perspective. One of the key things that, there were almost 11% of the people who, when answered the previous poll question, actually said that they don't believe digital is going to, really transform the packaging industry. So, here's a set of reasons that Nitin is actually going to help us understand what's preventing, what's constraining this movement to happen. And therein lies, to my mind, and like Nitin puts it, therein lies the key to value, right? And therefore, reinforcing some of the points that have been made by the other panelists, but a very different perspective. Nitin, over to you.
Thanks, Jayesh. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Thank you, and good morning to all. And thank you to my co-panelists, Yogesh and Achintya. They have put a brand owner perspective in place for me. So I'll take from a brand owner perspective, when you look at it, to drive competitive advantage, you look at three areas. You need to have exceptional product, you need to have unbeatable price, and customer loyalty. So when you look at customer loyalty, like what Ajitya said, you look for a highly engaged consumer who's connected to the brand, and the branding is vying to enhance his user experience. So he spoke about QR codes which take you to a landing site, and there he explains the brand explains a certain set of product which will allow the consumer use it to the best possible ways. But I'm trying to take it a bit further. Now look at QR codes which are unique, and with digital, the advantage for me is that I can print digital QR codes on each of my packs, which is unique. And when a consumer gets a carton or a pouch, he can basically scan it, and it takes it to a digital platform. I've seen a digital platform that allow you to communicate with the consumer on an individual level. And today's consumer, I see, is increasingly interested in communicating with brands directly. If the consumer scans the QR code and registers and buying the product, the exchange of information that can take place is only limited by creativity. So I mean, one of the examples of consumer engagement that I've seen in 2016 when I visited HP's digital center, knowledge center, is this album which they presented after the end of the session. This has photographs, images of the entire session, and this was like instant. So you remember the event for a long time to come, and it's etched in your mind. So that kind of imprints the brand in your mind for a long time to come, which is very important from the brand perspective. And another area that we come to is unbeatable prices. Now here's what, when I think of digital, one of the aspects is fast response, maybe shorter runs and higher cost. Hence, I think of it when I have to create some excitement in the market, when there's sort of promotional runs. While I can incur higher costs, say on products with higher margins, I won't stick to it when my volumes grow. So digital is kind of missing the action when the fun begins. Now take the QR code example. If I have to give it on a mass scale, the flexibility of digital will definitely help, but the cost would be prohibitive as far as my margins are concerned. So digital is kind of slotted as a complementary technology to conventional printing. It's my wish. I would like to see more democratization of technology to take its full advantage. One of the examples of cost is recently we had an e-com launch of a baby care product, and we were comparing the conventional label cost with the digital cost. Of course, the MOQ was similar, but the cost was almost upwards of 2 times. So that's what a limitation. In the end, what we did was some initial quantities for the lack of time we took it in digital, but then we went into the conventional tech. And finally, to the exceptional product part, when we come to the exceptional product, we would want to take it fast to the market. In a highly competitive market, getting first to the market means a better market share. So speed is critical. So when we look at digital printing with respect to packaging materials, printing is one part of the total value chain. Imagine a label, a carton, or a pouch. There are secondary operations that take part of your time. Your total overall turnaround time will be heavily dependent on your business partner's infrastructure, and you have to be mindful of that. Printing turnaround time may not necessarily translate into packaging material turnaround time. So these are my perspectives on digital. If these are taken care of, I think digital is the future. Thank you, Jayesh.
Thank you, Nitin. Thank you very much. And I would actually ask you to focus on this overall value chain point that Nitin is bringing to fore, because it's not only important to give shorter runs. I think the critical element is that from a brand owner's perspective, the overall time to market needs to go down, and that's where the maximum value is. And for converters, for players in this market, for brand owners, as well as for tech guys, there will be an element of how do I really create value. And one of the most important value creating pieces that Nitin spoke about was on creativity. I'm going to request our next panelist, Sridhar, actually to talk of innovation, design thinking, and sustainability in this entire transformation that's happening. Sridhar, can I request you to go next?
So thanks, Jayesh. I think thanks to the PackPlus team for this invitation and privilege to be in this webinar, with my esteemed web audience and of course my friends in the industry. Jayesh, responding to your questions on the new innovation and technology, I think I would like to take a step back and touch upon three areas, what Marico has done differently in the area of digital printing. What are the challenges of digital printing and what has been done in the recent past, with respect to innovation. So my journey began in Marico in 2016. And when I joined, we thought of doing something completely different than anybody else has done in the industry. Hence the birth of digital printing in Marico, although digital printing in FMCG is restricted mostly to mock-up development, a few years back. So we partnered with HP and my digital supplier partner Trigon to make a memorable opportunity, and had visited HP Singapore's office, as Nitin was mentioning. And it was an amazing experience when I had gone there. And that kicked off something called, a launch campaign with a hashtag Where's Your Face, sponsored by Ranveer Singh around mid-2017. This was our set wet deodorant can with a printed shrink sleeve, which we gave not only as a personalization opportunity, but a gifting opportunity too. So hence this was a face with the name on the can, which nobody in the personal care category had done before, or in Asia for that matter. At least I think except KitKat or some Korean brand had done it. This became a big hit on the net and helped boost sales. The second thing which we extended this to was to our Studio X range of premium products co-created by the celebrity stylist Alim Hakim. We had digitally printed cartons and label at that time then. Hence, for the first time in Marico, we launched products completely on an e-com platform, going inroads in the premium personal care of male grooming. Hence, it was a digital marketing with digital packs, both. So finally, we partnered, recent past, we partnered with SL on digital printing on tubes with Kaya Youth hand cream, which has got recently launched. And this launch was done in 10 days flat and is a very good success story for us. Now I come to challenges and how I focus upon that and then the innovation part of it. So we need to have some criteria for evaluation on the digital platforms, or for that matter, any print media. So the print quality, consistency and adaptability part of it, the cost effectiveness, the sustainability, and the lead time are the key, I think, points where we need to focus upon. Now, lead time, which had scored an upper hand by digital printing, has been crunched significantly. This was a surprise and got tested in these COVID crisis for us during the launch of our Vigiwash, which is an innovative product put in the market for the first time in India. We required labels quickly, so our partner Creative Labels have delivered labels through Flexo route in 7 working days for us. So this had made me believe that we can crunch the lead time by about more than 3 weeks. Remember, it's during the last month's severe COVID crisis. Okay. However, I think as of date, digital printing scores good in all, except what Nitin rightly mentioned, cost effectiveness. Cost will be a strong constraint going forward, specifically in these COVID times. And it's very much need of the hour. I think cost of digital printing is something like 20 to 100% or 150% of the cost of a regular print. With these costs, we will limit ourselves, significantly. And mock-up generation, it will just limit to mock-up generation, maybe catering to small volumes in premium category space, or maybe for launch volume when we needed to have speed to market and challenge the competition. So hence, in nutshell, of operation at a right cost is a scale of operation at a right cost is a bigger challenge. What I see. Coming to my last point, overcoming these challenges and what we need to look beyond that is the innovation space created globally, where I will touch upon technology to highlight my point. I think there are three vectors: innovation, design thinking, and sustainability, which goes hand in hand. And we need to look beyond digital printing and make it scalable. We can print an excellent design with a great quality only if we have a right substrate, good number of colors, and the right technology. I think substrate is given, and the only two things which remains where we can get our value is the color and the technology. We need to look how digitization of color in packaging helps bring in new areas to reduce cost and at the same time improve quality and consistency. So a little bit of statistics to prove my point. I think Institute of Color Research indicated that 85% of customers' first impression is based on color. In fact, color increases brand recognition by about 80% as per University of Maryland. Now, two digital technologies which has caught about my eye in the recent past has been the ECG, which is extended or expanded color gamut, and ink on demand technology, and blending into flexo printing. I think flexo printing has broken barriers and is becoming a new normal in the printing industry. So one of the biggest drivers to simultaneously improve color consistency and production efficiency has been the ECG. So ECG printing uses three additional ink colors, I think orange, green, and violet, on top of conventional colors of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, enabling a match of about 95% of the Pantone book, compared with approximately 65% previously. This means that there is no need to keep huge inventories of spot colors, but this can be added if required. The Pantone company estimates 15 to 25% of all packaging is printed using ECG, based on printing using ECG software. And this is expected to increase more than 50% within the next decade. And we need to adapt it faster than we think. So benefits in nutshells we'll do it is that spot color, we'll do away with the spot color, reduce wastage, reduce space, and hence reduce cost significantly. And of course, my friends in the industry, in the converting industry, on a lighter note, they need to pass on some benefits to us also. Classic example of ECG is of Nestle Waters in North America, in mineral water brand of theirs called Deer Park, and I think Nestle. They were evaluating this and not sure if this was fructified or not. Now, when you combine this with technology like DigiFlexo, which is an ideal ground between a digital and a flexo printing, it becomes too powerful. So a leading flexo manufacturer has recently introduced two revolutionary, innovation technologies relating to flexo inking and color matching. I will just touch upon the flexo inking, the second technology I'm going to talk about. This is the ink on demand technology with respect to flexo printing. So the ink on demand inking system, which is a clean and smart system, operates with only 30 grams of ink in the print unit. The biggest standout besides low ink consumption also, is that it eliminates ink trace, the chambered doctor blades, full washout and ink charges are performed in minutes with only few grams of ink and washing liquid wastage. It delivers consistently print quality at high speed and hence high productivity. Lastly, ease of operation and high flexibility, is the key thing. Finally, I think moving forward, we need to look into marrying technology and sustainability at a cost which is not only affordable, but makes digital printing a revolution in India and a win-win for both supplier partners and FMCG industry. That's all I have to say, Jayesh. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sridhar. Thank you very much. And, there is a direct link between what Sridhar just told us and shared with us around innovation, sustainability, and design thinking going hand in hand. And I'm going to request Himanshu to actually walk us through the examples that he has seen, and he has seen, his organization actually in the process of implementing this, because this really brings the full value of digital printing and digital packaging together with innovation in the overall context. And I really want Himanshu to share that with us. Himanshu, over to you.
Thank you, Jayesh, and thank you, Sridhar. And I just want to take it forward from Sridhar, where we talked about innovation. And my focus is going to be more on the innovation front. And we all know that life has completely changed in last 3 months, right? With COVID situation, where we were 3 months before, though we know that times have been challenging, but at the same time, it also brings a lot of opportunity. 3 months before, when we see that our elders at home they were finding it even difficult to use the mobile phones, are now using applications like Zoom and Skype to connect with people and relatives, right? So this is how the habits have been changing. People are upgrading themselves. One of the things which I've seen changing majorly.
Himanshu, a bit louder. A few people can't hear you.
Yeah,
please
sure.
A bit louder. Thanks.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've seen, changing in last 3 months is that whatever we are getting at our homes, we are trying to wash it before we use it. And I'm sure many of us would have seen this, like even it's about vegetable, any product that we bring to home, with the fear of corona, we try to see that if we can wash it and then we use it. In line with this, there are companies who are kind of upgrading their packaging to make it more washable. And when they make it more washable, they have to create it more sturdy packaging. Our packaging probably which we can use it multiple times, or we can use it later on for some other purpose as well. And traditionally, if we see, Indian culture also has been like this, where we believe in reusing the packaging materials and packaging components. I'm sure if you look at your own kitchen, at many of the kitchens, we can find those, Bonvita jar being used for storing some other, maybe sugar, tea, or some other material. So taking this as an opportunity, when we are going for more sturdy packaging, we can use packaging as brand reminders at our homes. So if we can have the packaging which is designed in a way that it helps us to create that brand reminder for customers, for people, I think that can be one big innovation area where a lot of companies are working on. It can work on more, given the types of packaging are changing to be more sturdy packaging. So that's one innovation which I feel I think it should really be worked out. And even if it comes with a little bit of extra cost, but if it creates that kind of visibility and advertisement, then absolutely I think this should be the welcome move. The second thing I will talk about is again a completely innovative area where we've seen nanotechnology coming in, digital chip technology, where we can use nowadays our own debit card or credit card and use our own mobile to swap it with Wi-Fi chip, which is enabled in the kind of debit or credit card we have. Similar thing can be adopted into packaging, into the product packaging, where it can be used in multiple ways. One of the way could be, you might have heard about the Amazon buttons, where using Wi-Fi, the product automatically gives signal in terms of when you have to reorder the product if the stock levels have come down, or probably it gives you a reminder after a particular set frequency. So after 1 month that you might need to consider to reorder those products, right? And those products packagings are basically Wi-Fi enabled. So though it's still quite a niche area, very few people probably have started using it, but that's the area where we can see it can happen in the future. In fact, same thing can also happen by creating a kind of for packaging jars or packaging bottles, where as the level of material starts going down, or the inventory reduces of the product which is stored inside, the system can automatically, or that packaging can automatically give a reminder on your mobile phone for reordering purpose. So that is another way we can kind of digitize and make use of technology in terms of packaging. Even in pharmaceutical, I've seen that the same thing can be applied if we are able to kind of create the adherence for the patients, especially for chronic diseases. So for example, the diabetes tablet, which people have to take it maybe almost for the life, right? If those kind of reminders can be created using the packaging, which can help patient to ensure that they purchase the medicines on time and they don't miss their dosages, it can also help us to improve the adherence and compliance for usage of dosages for the patients. This also, in a way, once you get the reminder, There's another way we can probably, this can be linked to automatic ordering by the, at the site. So for example, some of the companies are working with e-commerce companies where using that same packaging, you can put a QR code or you can put a 2D scan where you simply go and scan the product. It takes less than 10-second time for you to reorder the product, right? So in terms of getting the authentic product, ensuring that the customer is able to repurchase your product at just a fingertip, I think we can create those kind of 2D scanning, 2D codes or the QR codes on the product, which customer can use to scan it and reorder the product from any of the authenticated website or e-commerce website just in less than a few seconds, right? Which makes it very easy or comfortable for customer or the patients in terms of using ordering those products. Another thing I've seen is, and this is one of the packaging which we are designing at the global level, and that is for taking the medicines. So there's a kind of system or the blister is designed in a way that is getting designed in a way that it automatically gives you a reminder for taking those tablets, and not just to you. This can be linked to a caretaker. Many of the times in pharmaceutical, it's not the patient who basically decides when to take the medicines, but the caretakers are responsible for ensuring the adherence, and the caretaker gets those messages whether the patient is taking those medicines on time or not, or probably if they need to remind the patients to take those medicines. So those kind of packaging is getting designed, which basically creates the alarm in terms of taking those dosages or medicines on time. Another area where I see things is going to change is a lot of time we see e-leaflet or paper leaflets comes along with the product, or product packaging itself has a lot of instructions about the usage of the product for the customers. Many of the times these things which are printed on the packaging is not very easy to understand. Now with the digitization, what we can do is that we can rather again create a QR code, and as soon as the person or the customer scan those QR code, can go to a video link which helps a person or the customer understand how do we use the product. And I've seen there are products which are really very complicated to use where this technology can be really leveraged pretty well, and consumer and the people who are using the product can actually understand how do they make best use of these products. A simple example can also be, we've seen like on a lot of food products, you see a recipe which is printed on the pack, right? So instead of that, actually you can give a link of video which actually clearly demonstrate how a particular dish is prepared, and that can be more interactive for the consumer or the customers for using using the product. So that's another way. And even in pharmaceutical, we've seen that now the e-leaflets are replacing the paper leaflets. That is also helping pharma companies to improve compliance. Whenever there's a change in regulation, there's a change in the safety standard or the instructions on the pack. Once in today's situation, once you do the packaging of the product and the leaflet and it goes into the market, you cannot change it. It's very difficult to change it. With digitization, with e-leaflet, you simply just need to change your content or content on the website, and the patient or the doctors can get the latest information just by scanning the code on your packaging. So there are different ways in which packaging innovations can be done, the digitization can be done. I believe that when we are talking about sustainability, I think repackaging is one thing which we all should, first of all, as an Indian, I think we anyway have culture of reusability. We should not shy away from it, and we should try to see that instead of use and throw packaging, how can we reuse those packaging materials, reduce the burden on the earth, and that also helps us to kind of create that brand value and the image for the companies. So these are few of the innovative ideas I have on the packaging fronts. Yeah.
Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you, and I particularly like the fact that you did point out to a very strong cultural trait that we as a developing nation has, which is to reuse almost everything. In fact, people have written books around Jugaad where things instead of being thrown away are being reused and repurposed. And I genuinely think that a lot of that really creates reuse really creates and saves resources and creates value. So thank you very much. I think that's a very different perspective. And I loved about the fact that, overall digital packaging, in sync with the overall innovation piece, actually creating a lot of value to the consumer. That was lovely. And I must thank each of the brand owners. I think they pretty much covered how do we really bring value to the consumer connect? How do you really bring value in the value chain for the brand? How do you really simplify the supply chain? And how do you really create value for all participants in the ecosystem, whether it's converter, whether it's technology providers, whether it's equipment providers, everyone. I think the overall gamut, and that's something which is very important. Now, here's the whole question number 2 for all of you. Please do respond on what's, in your opinion, where will digital packaging create the highest value? And here's my response. Okay, we'll wait for just this minute to let the responses come online. Any clear winner? Okay. Meanwhile, what I'll do is, I'm going to invite. There it is. Here's the piece. Okay, personalized consumer connect becomes the biggest one, and followed by speedy time to market. And the lower cost and lower wastage are over others is very slow. So brilliant. I think the writing is on the wall. All our participants, brand owners feel that a personalized consumer connect will really create the maximum amount of value. Thank you very much. With this in mind, let me actually call Mr. Appadurai, and he has a whole host of experiences around every aspect of this piece, and I'm going to request him to actually comprehensively cover his thoughts. Sapatra.
Good morning. For me, digital printing is actually more than a technology. It's actually a movement to serve the humanity. This is how I would describe digital printing. I will tell you a story of why I'm saying this. Just before the lockdown started, there was this big exhibition in Delhi called Ahar. We participated. What does HBS to do in a food show? We don't know. We just thought a lot of packaging people are going to come. And while we are in the show, at the end of every presentation, you roam around, and there came an amazing lady who tapped my shoulder, and she said, "I really like what your company is doing," and she offered me a cookie. Okay. Look, for me, I'm a very greedy, hungry person all the time. I took the cookies, ate it, the cookie just melted. And then she started saying this. She said, "Look, I've been manufacturing this gourmet cookies or high-end biscuit, whichever way you call it. I have 16 different SKUs. I've not been able to get this product to the market as much as I want. Each cookie is sold at $200. Right? And she said the primary reason is she's got 2 different variants on the product. One in a beautiful glass bottle with a superb quality label. I think every supplies it. And then a flexible packaging, small, one quantities of one stuff. Right? And she said every time I go to a converter, he says print for 5,000 linear meters or print 100 kgs, which would last me for 2 years. Right, and my business is about being gourmet, and for me, I need to innovate. I need to keep changing my packaging. I need to be appealing to a lot of people. Good that digital printing exists. It is giving life to a numerous amount of brands in a country like India, which I would really call. It's going to be the startup nation in a very, very short time. So much of creativity, so much of people wanting to do specialized business, and digital is going to give life to a lot of products with the same level of packaging that you probably would have heard from all the panelists of these multinational companies. So for me, it serves to humanity. Right now, beyond all the points which were discussed, I mean, the last poll, which was personalization is the only thing which people talk about, but there are values of digital. Many values of digital, right? Yeah, personalization, definitely one of the values. Short-term printing, which I was talking about, which is quantity of one, which was spoken by somebody else. And then this probably is a technology which could help fight counterfeits, which is, for me, this is tangible service to humanity. And if I can, request the slides to be put up and go to slide number 5 or 4, I will talk about this. And then one more big value that it brings in is around the sustainability part. So I will essentially deal with only 2 of these elements today. One around the security printing. Right? Now, as you all know today, that digital packaging, everything is every cell, every micron of a page or a package could be customized, right? And this is one of the multiple technologies which are available in the security world in track and trace. I'm going to show the simplest example of what we do. This was a project that we did in Africa for the counterfeiting the pharma products which is there. We actually did not even go this deep of printing a QR code in the Godrej pattern, which on scanning verifies and tells you if it's authentic or not, works on the mobile. We actually printed a 12-digit serial number on the package of medicine, and people just have to scratch it and send it as a message to a number 121, and within 3 seconds they got a response back saying it's original medicine, you would have bought it from this store, right? It gives a lot of reassurance. And if it is not a code which is valid, it gives a message back saying return it to your retailer, right? Now, this kind of stock counterfeits are the level of a consumer, okay? But gentlemen, beyond this, I think since this works in mobile technology, right, I could identify where the counterfeit products exist in the market, which is a big service. Let's say if you're sitting in Kirtinagar in Delhi and you're going to a pharmacy next to the furniture market in Kirtinagar, I have 5 failed codes in Kirtinagar furniture market. I can actually send cops to raid a shop in Kirtinagar furniture market and take out my counterfeit. Look what it does for a brand owner, if you're a brand owner who's listening. Any product across from pharma to chocolates to automobile parts, about 10 to 20% is the counterfeit. CNN published that Indian pharma market has 20% counterfeits, right? What we're talking about, even if we have an assumption of 10%, if you're a 1,000 crore company or a 100 crore company, you're going to get back all these products back as your sales. You're going to kill the guy who, without the face, is fighting and taking away your revenue, which you're legally entitled to. So, that's like 10 crore of additional revenue, gentlemen. Somebody was talking about digital being expensive. Additional 10 crores of revenue would make really digital look cheaper, number one. Okay. If you can just go back onto the slides, gentlemen. Okay, and it's for me, it's all about. I'm going to slide number 1, please. It's all about staying one step ahead of your counterfeiter, right? One step ahead of the counterfeiter all the time, and it really kind of helps. And this is the slide that I really want. I mean, if your bear is chasing a group of people, just go back to the last slide. You don't need to be the fastest one to run. You just have to be one step ahead of the last guy who's running. The bear is going to hunt the last person only, right? For me, it's a huge value. And if you can stay on this slide, stay on the slide at 25. The second part, which everybody talked about, is the wastage, the sheer amount of wastage which happens in the packaging industry. About 25% of the products which were ever packaged never reach the consumer. Never reach the consumer. Either it was not put on the product, or if it was put on the product didn't go to the shelf or didn't go to the consumer's hand. And look, this is not done by MCS Digital, does the survey. And 50% of the products go through a regulatory change every quarter. This is alarming or a huge number. If you go to the next slide, I would ask you, all of us have learned this in our kindergarten. The next slide, please. Prevention is better than, I'll give it a pass. Prevention is better than cure. Must have been the answer that all of you would be saying. Right? That's exactly what I would say. Today, if I were to print for my 6 months, 1 year, 10, 2 years, and then throw it to the dustbin, there is no use of it. So what we're talking about is printing exactly the quantities that you need. If it is probably 1,000 linear meters, you print 1,000 linear meters. This, gentlemen and ladies, is going to save 25% of a landfill that you're otherwise going to create. And then comes the values around track and trace, security printing, all the other things, personalization for me, all these are later. 25% is a saving that I could generate, right? We just go one more slide. This for me is a huge value on the sustainability, also on the cost, right? And for me, it is today just beyond printed materials getting wasted. Somebody was saying that we are still complimenting, we're still complimenting. No, I think we will probably be more than complimenting soon. If we could just go one slide higher. Yeah. So, see, for me, this is actually the difference between analog printing and digital printing. What you see in the left side, it's a actual warehouse which contains this massive amount of cylinders and plates in the heart of Bombay. Okay. So this cost is coming to you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a brand. Okay. Somebody has hired a 40,000 square feet space in Bombay to store cylinders, which were used 5 years back. And then you put in the cylinders, you use so much of chemicals, then you wash this with liters and liters of water and everything which could be damaging to the environment. In digital, you have no use of water, no chemicals which are used. Our inks are even approved on a non-FDA, on a non-contact site by the FDA, right? And for me, this is the transformation that we're talking in sustainability. The younger consumers, like the greater Thuggenburgs of the world, are going to fight for a sustainable world in the future. Our days, probably we did not, bother too much, but I think the generation next is going to demand for sustainable products more and more. With that, those are two big humanity favors. I just want to quickly touch upon, Jay, if we have time for another 2 more minutes about what's really happening post-COVID.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah,
please.
Super. Yeah. Post-COVID, for me, there are two huge changes that I'm seeing. One, we see something called as de-urbanization. This is more applicable if you're a converter who's listening on the line. I'm speaking to a converter in Bombay who runs 8 flexo presses. Okay, and 50% of his employees were from big states like UP, Bihar, and Jharkhand. Right, 50% have actually gone back. And he says, look, the earliest time, if at all they come back to work, it's going to be after Diwali. So 3 of his presses are shut down because to run a conventional press, it takes 3 or 4, 5 people sometimes, right? So today, manpower is going to be really, really short in the urban India, de-urbanization. And this is going to propel a lot of things to digital. Second, as a brand owner, you don't know what's coming tomorrow. The changes just become, it's probably, come down by 1/10 on the speed, right? Every minute there's going to be change. Bangalore, a city which has the total COVID exposure is less than what Bombay gives one day, is going for a lockdown probably a week later, right? I mean, things change so dynamically. So you want to not take risk and print everything and keep it, rather go on the go, print what you need, right? This is a big thing which is going to come out of COVID. And second, the amount of the good stuff that you had to eat, right? I mean, today, 5 of my friends have started companies which are in the immunity space, right? I mean, my friends are good people, believe them, I will recommend their product, but there could be 100 more others who would be faking them, which is where, counterfeit and other things are going to become important. For me, one last slide, which I will kind of summarize, not slide, but everybody talked about, showed examples of a lot of flexible packaging. I want to just put a perspective of what are the applications goes based on the size of the market. Label is one of the biggest areas which have already gone digital. Flexible, which is going digital very, very, very fast. So is folding cartons. Shrink sleeves and tubes, lamy tubes are also a big application. These are 5 big areas. So, it's just not restricted to what you saw by people. Labels, flexibles, folding cartons, shrink sleeves, and lamy tubes. These are 5 areas where digital is making a huge amount of difference. Jayesh, let's stop.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know, you have a lot more to share, we have almost 120 plus questions on the panel, and I wanted to the panelists are answering on the panel, but let me just pick 3 most important questions because they cover almost 35 odd questions asked by different odd people. One question I would request Meenakshi to answer around the overall profitability, ROI, cost. I think the question on minimum order quantity, I think, was actually answered by Achintya. So, Meenakshi, would you like to give us a sense of profitability and how this kind of works out for small brands versus large brands? You want to kind of share some thoughts on that?
Yes, Jayesh, thank you very much. In fact, very interesting question. This question, I think we answer most of the customers every now and then during our meetings with the brands, brand owners, with customers. So I would like to put it in a different perspective. As Durai rightly said, when we talk to most of the brands, so profitability, I would basically explain in for different stakeholders, how it's going to be profitable for each stakeholder. From brand perspective, if you really look at how cost is going to work for them. Now, as Durai said, that there are a lot of brands who have kept inventory, who have printed extra because minimum MOQ was required to be printed. So they printed it, it is kept in an inventory. Now they don't know how to use it. We have one of the very prominent brands, I'm not going to name that brand here. He was talking to us pre-COVID that he has a lot of inventory where they printed it and now their brands are not going to use it anymore. So that's at the end of the day, it's a cost to the brand. So they were looking at disposal of those that inventory. Not only that inventory, the warehouse cost of carrying that inventory is also a cost for the brand. Now I'm going to put another perspective to this whole discussion. Shantanu, can you just put up that raw pressery slide for me, please, so that I can explain it much better? Jayesh, by the time he sets up that slide, one interesting case study which I would like to share with all the brand owners who are present at the panel or in the audience. This digital, as I said in my initial conversation, that it's not going to, it's not a competing technology, definitely. It's a complementing technology. So just to give an example of this brand, an Indian brand, Raw Pressery, which most of us know, they did this unique campaign with us for shrink sleeves to promote their brand, okay? What was so unique about this campaign, if I have to really put it in real numbers, 7 different variants which was printed. What eventually happened to brand out of this campaign, so that's how most of us would measure the profitability for a brand owner. The brand sales grew by 52%, which is quite a number. So if you really ask any brand of what is the ROI they get of the traditional promotions they would do, I'm sure that most of the brand owners would say a single-digit number. So it was very interesting for us to know that the double-digit number was the sales that this campaign helped this brand with. Not only that, it was not only sales growth that this brand achieved, it was also that they had a database of additional 5,000 plus customers who actually browsed through this brand and they actually got this product. So the website, the brand website increased by 100%. So if you really ask me, and just to give you for all the converters to know, we printed 50,000 sleeves in just 2 days' time. So what it means really for a converter like Huhtamaki or for any packaging converter is the time to market this product and having such kind of multiple jobs on press to keep press running. I am going to add another perspective to this whole discussion is that digital is not about matching what traditional press can do. It has definitely different value adds, which a converter needs to realize that how they are going to actually promote this as a concept, because it is definitely different selling. It is definitely where you have to really talk about to brands about not only how they can increase a sale, how they can promote their business, how can actually they have lean supply chain management for their organization. No inventory carrying cost. Also a classic example of what we are realizing now, okay, post-COVID. We have a brand for which we are printing and it's going to get introduced in market shortly. They had 50 variants which they wanted to introduce to market in just 2 weeks time, which we are really trying to fulfill. Trust me, Jayesh, till last evening, we were just doing artwork changes. Now tell me, which gravure press or traditional press can do these last minute changes? It is a cost to brand. So this digital technology has to be really looked at as from the organization, from the brand perspective, as a marketing tool of how they can actually speed up the time to market, how they can really personalize things, how it will increase their brand share, how it will increase their market share in the market. So it's a different perspective to look at cost. Over to you, Jayesh.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, Meenakshi, there is a whole host of questions, I think 20, 25, 30 of them, in many ways wanting this cost comparison. I think what I'm hearing, what I'm hearing panelists say, brand owners, converters, print tech providers, equipment providers, all of them saying that when you look at the overall cost and look at a total cost ownership approach, you will find that in specific applications and in places where it is being used, there are a whole host of savings. So it's not only about one particular way of calculating costs, because that's
Exactly.
how kind of works. And I think Meenakshi is pointing us out in that direction, saying that we are taking out a lot of inefficiencies in the system. Saving could be on time, it could be on wastage, like Sridhar said, it could be on counterfeits, like Apadurai said. It could be a whole host of stuff. It could be on consumer connect, like Himanshu said, and Achintya and Nitin said. So there are multiple places where you create value, and that's where you need to shift. Right. I'm going to spend one more minute and request Harveer ji to talk of. There's a question on 2030 and whether in 2030 or in the running up years, what is the future that you look like? Harveer ji, what would you say is the future in the next 24 months? If I were to try to make it very practical, Harveer ji.
2030 is a little far. I would say 24 months more realistic. I think Meenakshi did answer that question almost before, and Sridhar did a very, very right kind of mention on these subjects, because today converting packaging is not just printing. It is like decorating. It is creating an impact on the consumer, and it's like your salesperson. It's because of the e-commerce we are thinking like this. But when you walk in front of shop shelf, you need to pick up that package. It has to be decorated. It has to be the right kind of colors. We have to have the right Pantone shades. You have to have the right embellishments on them. So when you're talking of Pantone shades, you're looking for flexo. You're looking for skin tones. You're looking at offset. You're looking for metallized effects. You're looking at a gravure. So probably hybrid would be, if you're looking at like more deposition, you need screen. So it's like hybrid would be the right kind of a thing that would probably take precedence over everything, because digital is definitely going to be there, because it has to be the complementary variable things, personalization, short runs. All these things are now becoming an imperative for all brand owners. So it has to be everything available to them. So when a brand owners cannot go for digital to one and the other, they need their vendors to have all the kind of capability so that they have a proper embellished, decorated product which the consumer will just lift it off the shelf. And that's what it's going to be in the next 2-3 years.
Perfect. Harveer ji, and here's the next final question for the audience coming up, final poll question. While you put it up, I'm going to request that there be Achintya, Yogesh, you want to, or Himanshu, you want to kind of respond to the text 24 to 36 months question as well. Maybe Achintya, you could go first and followed by Yogesh. Achintya?
Okay. So in terms of the next 24 to 36 months, ability to launch faster products, speed to market, that's what will be the key, and that's wherein digital will come in handy. Having said that, absolutely right, digital as a mainstay printing technology is still miles away. So digital can be clubbed with something like a gravure, wherein a set of customizations can be done and brought about. That is how I see the next 24 months to go about, wherein you use a mainstay printing, follow it up with the digital customization and speed to market.
Yogesh, Sridhar, you want to go? Yogesh, next. Okay, Apadurai, you want to go next? You want to speak on this, on the future?
Yes.
Okay, please.
See, 24 months, 36 months, 2030. Look, I think everybody who predicted 2020 today would be crying out loud in a room, right? So I'm not going to attempt that. I would rather put it, I would actually put it back as to how the consumer buying habits are going to change, would affect how packaging is done, the printing technology is chosen. That's very, very, very important. What consumer goes through, only time can tell. But Jesh, I'm a believer. Anything which can become digital will become digital. I'm not good at predictions, but very good at beliefs. Anything that can become digital will become digital. Printing and packaging will be no exception.
Perfect. I think that's a very very appropriate answer. Himanshu, Sridhar, Yogesh, any one of you want to take? Yeah, please.
I think more now that we are getting into this COVID era, and so there are two legs to it. One leg is that if e-commerce platform becomes higher, so that's where I think the digital printing may play. But my sense is that cost is always going to be the biggest issue, and which I had emphasized. And unless and with for a customer or a consumer, if they don't have money in their wallets, I don't think even the FMCG industry would be able to afford a particular thing and give it at the right cost to the consumers. So I think going forward, we need to, what I was talking about, the blend part of it, and getting into the cost, cost management of this thing, and the scale of operation for digital printing. If that becomes big, and we are able to reduce the cost of digital printing, then I can agree. But I have my own challenges, and it will get restricted marks and shorter runs, those sort of things which will be there. That's what my feeling is.
Thanks, Sridhar. Thanks. Himanshu, you want to take a shot at this? Yogesh, you want to take a shot at this?
Yeah, I can
go ahead, Yogesh.
Next.
Go ahead. And
yeah, so basically everyone has talked about the future, and Appa rightly mentioned that what are we in the situation today. So everything is uncertain. In my view, I think it's all about opportunity versus the growth, which is sits in terms of the brands, converters, and every value chain, right? And that's where I think this technology helps a lot, in spite of having multiple challenges and the constraints. So it's all about we need to tap in the right opportunity for the right brand and for the right consumer trends which we are going ahead with. Especially post-COVID, consumer habits have changed, consumer buying pattern has changed, right? So we need to analyze those things, and of course we need to tap in the right opportunity wherein the brand growth is really making sense regardless of the cost. Of course, in terms of the cost, everyone has talked about it. Everyone knows that's the reality of it. But if you see in a different perspective and end-to-end value chain, of course, and the opportunity, then it makes sense. And of course, if brand growth is happening through this media and the digital packaging, then why not? So I would put it in simple term. It's all about opportunity and the growth, which are the examples which we need to assess and take those calculated decisions which fits for the business like us. Yeah.
Thanks,
so
Yogesh.
That's my perspective. Yeah.
Thanks, Yogesh. Thanks, Himanshu.
Just quick point from me. I think the things just needs to be much more customer centric as we move ahead, because see, we think there's going to be a plethora of information available, a lot of things. Everyone would like to change something in their packaging. The consumer and customers are going to get more and more information. How do we make it very easy for them to access those information, and keeping it short, keeping it something which is really simple. I think that's what should be the mantra, where we make it much more customer centric and understand what really consumer are looking for.
Perfect. Shantanu, can I request you to bring up the responses from the audience, please? There you go. So there is a hybrid, of course, is what everyone's answered, but there are a set of people, at least nearly 20% of them, who are saying completely digital as well. So that's very, very interesting. And everyone, you heard the panel. There is a play for some technologies, and even there, people do feel that the role of digital will increase. I, for one, I do tend to believe that, there is a very strong degree of innovation that is going to happen. After every crisis, the world has seen over the last 100, 120 years that, real innovation happens after the crisis of this magnitude. It will take a few years, but I'm sure digital packaging is going to be right in the center of it. So thank you very much. I must thank the panel. It was a fantastic set of insights. And here, thank you very much for all the hard work that you did. I really appreciate each one of you and the insights that you bring. We are really enriched. And I'm sure from the questions, almost 150 odd questions in 1.5 hours, you'll realize that everyone valued what you were saying and wanted much more. So thank you very much. And I must thank the organizers, Prateek, Shantanu, Swada, and everyone behind them, for making this happen. Thank you very much. With that, I will, end the panel. I've gone a little bit over time, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Good discussion.
Thank you, Jayesh, and thank you to all the
Thank you.
speakers. We've had a well-attended session, and almost 1,200 plus attendees I could see, but we'll get the actual figures finally after the session. We've had a lovely panel who's tried to address several insights and questions from all our delegates. We'll try and address this in future as well. And what I can say from this engaging discussion today is that yes, digital is something that is the future, and we need to coexist with all the technologies that we have. And we'll be looking forward in terms of having more engagements on this platform in the next month. We have planned the next webinar on the 24th of July. But before we conclude this session, I'd ask Shantanu to share a link in the chat box. And this is a link which will help us improve based on from the delegates. So I'll request all the delegates to please take time out and give us the feedback and share their views on the link that we are sharing in the chat box. So till then, we may meet the next time around. Let's stay safe, let's stay connected, and let's stay digital.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you
Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye.